All right. Hey, welcome back, everyone. So the Subaru's not in the garage anymore, so we're actually going to take a break from that thing just because it's just being, pretty annoying right now with some parts, especially with the axle stubs and the hubs being stuck, so I'm just going to wait on some parts to show up. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and start on this beautiful 2000 Mustang. So this is actually my old car. This is my roommate's car. We are finally going to go ahead and do something with that engine that's in there. So we are officially going to coyote swap this car. It's been a long time coming, so we do have a nice, I believe this was a 2020 GT convertible engine. So, those are usually driven by grandpas, and you can tell super low miles. The throttle body looks literally brand spanking new. So it was super low miles. It was a rear-ended car, so should be a pretty nice fit. So this is going to be a quick and dirty coyote swap. Nothing too crazy fancy. We're going to go ahead and keep the same 5-speed, but we will be doing some fuel system upgrades, headers, stuff like that, so that this engine can breathe and drive great. So we are going to be using a Ford Racing Control Pack, like always, like you should. Always Ford OEM ECU forever on these coyote swaps. Alright, so we got the bumper off. We got all the fluids drained, so drain the radiator, drain the engine, drain the transmission. And quick tech tip for those, because you gotta love all that rusty water. Recirculate your upper hose over to the lower hose location, plug it in, and then you'll be able to prevent a lot of the water from coming out when you pull the motor. We got the power steering drained. We just tipped the bottle over into a oil pan. That was quick and easy. And then we also got our fuel hose disconnected, our main harnesses disconnected. That way all of these wires will go with the engine. Now all that's left is to pull the exhaust, pull the starter, and the starter cables that go to the battery. And after that, it'll just be motor mounts, drive shaft, and your transmission mount with the shifter. So, and then after that, it should be ready to rip right out. So this has been, ¿cuántas horas? 2 hours? Yeah, this has literally been 2 hours of work, being super careful not to scratch the car. We even pulled the hood. Makes it so much easier to pull the engine straight out with the transmission attached, and the moment it comes out, it's literally going to go straight back in with the Coyote. So with that, I'll show you guys after, once we get all this stuff out. Alright, welcome back. So it is day 2 of working on the SN. I do have it all protected. For now, we're trying to keep this paint as nice as possible because it is pretty fresh. So on here is I went ahead, loosened these up, rerouted the coolant hose. I think I said that. Got the, I guess, adjuster hooked up. We do have the cats out of it. Drive shaft is removed. It's ready for the transmission mount to be removed. We also have the shifter removed out of the car. And then again, dude, this thing is absolutely clean. Pretty difficult to see because of the sun, but it is spotless in here. So I am doing my best to keep this thing as clean as possible and get all the spider webs off of it. But pretty much we have everything off other than the transmission mount. That's the only thing that's really holding this thing in. The motor mounts have already been unbolted, so it's just a nut on the bottom. Here is your stock exhaust. So again, it's just 4 O2 sensors, boom, boom, and 4 bolts back there, 4 bolts up there, and now we should be able to remove this thing as one giant piece. So I'm gonna go ahead, hook up the cherry picker, plop this thing out, and I'll show you how the whole shebang looks once it's out of the motor or out of the car. So again, some more of that, a little bit of paint protection. I need to get me some of those fender covers, but I also don't kind of like them because paint or tape is always fresh, and those covers, they get covered in dust and stuff like that, and then you're just gonna rub that dust back into the paint. So even if I had those fender covers, I would probably still put some kind of tape or cover on this just for some light scratches or light dings. But it's not foolproof, so you still gotta be careful. So let's get the cherry picker on there and yank this thing out. All right, and just like that, the engine is out. And Man, that is the cleanest engine pull I've done in a hot minute. You can tell it's a little bit on the grimy side, so this will need a little bit of a pressure washing before we put the Gen 3 in, but that's not that big of a deal. We did not drop a single drop of coolant anywhere, you can tell. Still dusty. All from just taking a little bit of time to reroute that coolant hose to seal off the front of the engine. And from back here, I did think about sealing it off, but when I pulled them, there was no coolant in there. Now, the biggest reason was when I had the front draining out of the radiator, I did hit it with some compressed air. It was able to get all those little pockets of coolant out and back into the bottom of the motor, into the bottom of the radiator, and out into the bucket. So there's a little tech tip. It definitely helps a ton. Starter did have to come out. That upper starter bolt was a giant pain, if anyone knows, because it is up in this little area. You could tell we had some sealing issues with the old exhaust, but that's not going to be a problem anymore since we're going to have some free-flowing exhaust on that guy. So more on that later. Now the next step for this is to separate the transmission, because yes, we will be reusing this transmission. Any modular bell housing transmission will work on any modular motor on the Ford side anyways. So pretty much anything from 97 and up, transmission wise, will bolt right up to a 2020 Gen 3 long block. So let's get this unbolted, and in the meantime that we're waiting for a clutch, we'll maybe address the Gen 3, remove the oil cooler and the alternator, because we will be installing a power by the hour bracket kit as well, and getting all of these parts situated so once the clutch arrives we can marry them together and get this whole thing back in there. Alrighty, and just like that, the engine bay looks 10 times better. So we got the power steering just all cleaned up, the AC condenser or compressor all cleaned up, firewall cleaned up, and I even rinsed out the heater core and got all that nasty gunk out. So if you want to, I totally forgot, I just realized I totally forgot to do the transmission. So if you want to see what came out of that heater core, you know, this came out of the radiator, and honestly this has 2,000 miles, so you know, and it has been sitting for a while, so all that sediment is just at the bottom. It's just gross. So I gotta bottle that up and go dispose of it. So tomorrow I'll pressure wash this guy, and hopefully the clutch arrives and we can start assembling the giant torpedo that will be the Gen 3 and the transmission. So it's a little bit of a unholy matrimony, because this is, you know, a stock 2-valve transmission. It's a 5-speed. Everyone's like, why don't you just go 6-speed? Yes, it's 6-speed, 100 times better, but we're not trying to spend $50,000 on this car. So far, I think we the owner has maybe $4 or $5 grand invested, and that's not bad. A Gen 3 control pack, headers, exhaust, all, you know, pretty much the whole nine, for around $5-6 grand. I think we are going to be tiptoeing around probably the cheapest Gen 3 2-valve swap ever. So stay tuned. I think I'm gonna call it a day here, and then on the next episode we'll pick it up on how to install the Gen 3, how to set it up, and how to get everything in the car now. So first episode, cleaned out the engine bay, got rid of that 2-valve that's over there, that boat anchor. So if anyone's looking for a perfectly running 2-valve, this thing is money. I'll post a little like snippet of just how smooth it ran before. But yeah, if anyone wants it, hit me up.